Good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to show you one of my games, which is for the year 1996. When I was 13 years old, the game played at World Youth Championship under 14 in Menorca, in Spain. Actually, it was one of my first international games. Before this game, I didn't have ELO rating even. And I was happy to participate in youth championship, and it was my first participation in World Youth Championship in Menorca. Okay, my game against Saptarshi Roy Chowdhury from India, the guy who became international master after a few years, and one of the best juniors of India at the time. At that time, I was white. I started the game with the d4. I played d5. I played bishop g5, which is called Trompovsky opening. My opponent answered with bishop f5. I played c4. Started h6. Bishop h4. Then started g5. Sorry, it's like c6 first. Then I go for knight c3. My opponent played g5. I played bishop g3. As you see, white got very good position after opening moves, and since black played h6 and g5, the king side is not very promising for black in near future, and most probably he will get in trouble because of his king situation, and the white has very good prospect to bring some pressure over king side of black. So my opponent played bishop g7. Continued with e3. Played knight f6. Now is white to move. Could you suggest some move to improve white's position?
Bishop e5.
Bishop e5. Arman?
Queen b3.
How about h4?
Queen b3 is interesting. H4 is interesting as well. Any other suggestion?
Rook c1 or queen b3?
Queen b3, just suggested by Arman already. Any other suggestion? To complete the development for white pieces, you can offer one exchange to light color bishop of opponent, since he doesn't have good cover for his white squares. After this exchange, he will get some problem, for covering light squares. So bishop d3 can be a good option, even though you had queen b3, or c takes d5, c takes d5, then queen b3.
If,
is-
if bishop to d3, can you go knight to e4?
Yeah, you can go, but you can go for knight e4, but no problem at all. You can play knight ge2, either knight f3, and you will be fine. It's not so important to exchange this bishop for this knight, because he has some very important and major weakness of h5, g6, f5 square, and h5 will be open for in white's favor. So bishop d3, my opponent took over d3, queen takes d3. What can black has some problem for king side, but it's not possible to think about long castle anyway, and sooner or later he has to go to castle with his king. Because of that, he prepared to complicate the game in the center and just play with his king to be safe, at least not to complicate the game from king side, at least. D takes c4, queen c4, defend castle, I guess. Sorry, he played knight bd7 first. After knight f3. Tried castle. And now white to move. This is some move for white.
000.
Long castle, yeah?
Maybe now h4.
h4. h4. Castle, long castle, or h4?
I like h4 right now.
h4 is interesting. h4 is interesting move. I didn't play h4 in the game, but if you want to go to a castle, you prefer to go short castle or long castle?
Or long castle. And then h4.
Short castle.
Why?
Because then you can play in the center with e4 and e5 and f4.
Mm-hmm. Any other reason for that?
I wouldn't play h4 until after I castle.
Just be safe, safety, king safety.
Yeah. Since you have positional advantage, better not to complicate the game.
All right, so king-
So if you continue normal,
Yeah.
most probably you will get acceptable advantage, and you can
short castle.
the game will be promising for white after few moves. If you just coordinate your rooks and try to capture some central squares and improve your pawn's structure, you have many prospects to improve your position, like moves with b4 or rook fd1. So castle is much safer option and has preference. And h4, despite this all, h4 is quite interesting. h4, g4, knight e5. I mean, after h4, g4, knight e5, white is clearly better, but the matter is how much it's good enough to obtain winning position or just better position. It's matter of evaluation. Just not so easy to recognize how much is better, but most probably everyone like to play with white after h4, g4, knight e5. So I tried castle. My opponent, I guess, played knight b6 here. Yeah, knight b6. What to do with white? Queen b3, d3, e2. Okay, maybe not the best to play with going to the c5. Maybe b3, d3, or e2 is your options. What is your
E2.
choice?
I say E2.
e2. Man, e2,
I said D3, but what do I know?
d3. Yeah. Okay, after queen b3, you have some pressure over b7 pawn. You can continue the game with a4, a5, and bring some pressure over b7. So queen b3, and at the same time with your queen, you're working over f7 square, f7 pawn. So queen b3.
He doesn't play queen C8.
It's possible, but somehow this pin can be applied for this open files after f4, and knight e5 can be really annoying because you have maximum pressure over f7 square after knight e5 and f4. My opponent played knight fd7. It's clear he didn't like to let me play knight e5. He just prevents knight e5 and white's to move.
E4.
e4. e4 is interesting. It's possible to play, but
Rook at d1.
rook a d1. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Rook on A to D.
you go for rook a d1 also.
Yeah, rook on A to D. Why do you play rook on F to D?
I think both of these options are playable, but I played rook fd1 if I'm not mistaken. Yes, rook fd1. Because one day I can use rook, other rook to bring it to c1. Since black's queen doesn't have good square for c8, then rook ac1 is more useful even. Rook fd1. My opponent played rook c8. What to move with white? We have already mentioned.
Rook a
Now E4.
No.
Oh, rook on A to C1.
No. What was the purpose of queen b3?
Oh, to A4 then.
Yes. a4, idea a5. You know, if okay, black can play a5, but after this, knight on b6 is not very stable anymore, and there is some problem for these pieces. You know, it's not possible to leave this square, or knight cannot live freely. So a4 is interesting move and good enough to improve your position and take more advantage. Already black is much worse. My opponent played g4 to complicate the game and to create some chances for himself, but after g4,
Knight
how should I play?
Knight H4.
Knight h4 or
Knight E5.
Knight e1.
knight e5. Yeah, since you played rook fd1, everything is ready to open files. Knight e5. Just say hello to black's queen after exchange over e5, and he will get some problem for b5. Knight e5. Knight takes e5. D takes e5, yeah?
Yeah. So you take with the bishop.
Yeah, you bring one more piece into the game with one tempo, so nothing is wrong with that. So better to play with the e5 and use this tempo for next move. Queen e8, almost forced because queen c7 will met by
But then he
e6.
plays bishop e5.
Okay, then a5 and rook d7
Yeah.
and many things. You know, e6. I mean, if he plays queen c7, we go for
Right.
e6,
And then
bishop e5, a5,
Right.
and then rook
Yeah.
d7. It's almost losing.
Pretty bad.
Yeah. Queen e8. What to do?
A5.
a5. Not d7. We can take one pawn for free. Attacking to the knight.
Okay.
Knight takes e5.
Take the pawn.
Yes. Queen takes a7. One pawn up for white. But my opponent was happy with his position since he could create some counter play in king side, and he started to complicate the game. Here, after queen a7 with the move knight g6, it's clear what's his idea. He wants to play h5, h4, or f5, e5, f4. Could you suggest some good move for white?
A6.
a6, yeah. White has many options. Clearly better position.
E4.
e4 to prevent f5, yeah.
Rook
It's
D7.
possible, but I guess it's not the best. For example, you have to think about queen d7. Since you are pawn up, it's better to simplify the game and use some technique to guide the position to the win.
So you play queen to d7?
I didn't do that, but it's possible. It's one of
Yeah.
the most serious options at the time, and you have to think about it seriously.
Queen E6 then maybe.
Because you are pawn up and very fast pawn. You have very speedy pawn or a file, and after this exchange, most probably you're winning. I played queen c5 to stop h5, blockade this c6 pawn, and just leave this rook passive and give some more speed to my pawn, a pawn. I think it's good move, but okay, it's matter of taste. You could play queen d7, for instance, and there is nothing wrong with it. Queen c5, f5. Here, white has many options, but during the game I thought it's not bad to challenge my opponent or king side. And I tried f3. You know what I mean? After this exchange over f3 square, I can go king h1 and bring the rooks over g file and create some attack over his king. Since I have pawn up and better queen, I thought maybe in complications I'm not worse even. But okay, that time I was too young. You know, I was 13 years old and it was my first real tournament, and you can see some you can see some complications which is not required. I mean, if now I'm going to the same position, most of the times I go for queen d7 and exchange and go for some techniques and simply win the game. But in this game I gave really interesting chances to opponent, and he tried to employ, and I was very close to miss something, but unfortunately I handled the problem and the game was interesting, and I can show you later what happened. F3, my opponent took gf, g takes f3, g takes f3, my opponent played e5. It was not necessary, but I gave him some chance. Now he's going to play f4. At least I have to be away from his attack. I played king h1. He played f4. E takes f4. E takes f4. Bishop f2. At least I have very good coordination among these two pieces, bishop and f2 and pawn on f3. You can see I covered very important squares like g4, h4, and from here e4 and d4, and I'm ready enough to bring my pieces over king side. But again, I have to say it was not necessary, and it was much better to play without giving chance to opponent, since I was pawn up. My opponent played knight e5. What to do? Arman. How should I continue now as white? Rook e1, queen h5.
Rook g1. Playable?
Yes, rook g1.
Either E1 or G1.
Rook g1 I played, but black is in the game. Now he has some moves.
F3?
Yeah, knight f3 is interesting. Can reply it by rook g2 or rook g4. Still white is clearly better, but black is in the game. Fortunately, my opponent didn't play knight f3, and he played some worse move.
He didn't want rook g1 because knight is f3.
Yeah, rook g1 and knight f3 should be played. Almost only chance. My opponent played rook c7 here. Somehow he's scared of this bishop g7, rook g7 sacrifice, but it was not possible in reality. There were some interesting lines after knight f3 with this intermediate check first. king h8, and then rook g4, if I'm not mistaken, rook g2. Also rook g7 was interesting, but probably it's not winning, just kind of compensation. But if he mistake, if he plays king h7, it's mistake queen d3 check, or if rook f7, then maybe rook g7 check is very interesting. For example, rook f7, rook g7, king g7, then queen d3, knight sorry.
Queen d3 first.
After rook f7, rook g7 check, king g7, queen d3. And if knight e5, bishop d4. Most probably white is winning, but okay, better not to complicate the game next time. Rook c7. And please think properly and try to find the best options for white and black, and give me the final results. It's kind of combination, but it's like chain, and you can calculate many moves in advance and tell me what will be the final position.
Rook on A to E.
Oh, bishop to d4.
What move?
A to E.
Rook a e1. What's the idea?
Yeah, pin the knight.
It's a matter of calculation. You know, you have to calculate until the end,
Oh,
and give me some photo from the final position. Some picture should be come out.
Bishop d4 is better. That is rook on A to e1 and then bishop d4. Really pile up on that knight.
maybe even queen D6.
Still no final position.
That's an interesting move.
Still no final position.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Queen d6 is nice because you're threatening queen h6.
Yeah. When you're threatening the rook too.
Yeah, I like that. Queen d6. That's a pretty move. Very pretty move.
Rook d6, yeah.
Queen d6.
Queen.
Queen d6, then
That was a lot of stuff.
idea is queen h6 and attacking the rook at the same time.
Right.
Yeah, but your first move was better.
Rook
Okay,
A to E.
yeah.
A to E, yeah.
Okay, e1, queen h5, sorry, my opponent played rook f5 first. Some good move. Easy,
Bishop d4.
very easy. Knight b5. Rook h5. What is his idea?
It's, rook takes
Knight takes
H2 and queen to.
Yes.
Rook h2 and queen h5
Yeah.
check, yeah? Kind of perpetual, but it's not possible, but it can create some problem for white.
He can dream.
Sorry?
He can dream.
Yeah, he can dream. So what to do?
If knight takes rook, rook's going to take pawn check. King bounce. Queen check. Knight. Oh, yeah. That's not good. So I don't think we have time to take the rook. You have to stop that rook takes h2. Rook to g2.
You can combine two methods. You know, you have better material, and he has many pieces under attack, and he has only one dream, as you said, nothing more. So you can play rook e5 first. Don't let him to
Right.
rush. Rook takes e5. Yes. Knight takes c7. Attacking the queen. Queen h5. Rook takes g7. King takes. Only move because king h8, queen f8 mate.
Queen takes e5.
Queen takes e5. Queen takes e5. And then bishop d4.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And he has to resign.
Game over.
Yeah, and he resigned.
Well,
Yeah.
takes and then the knight for it. But then
This time
then
one knight against
Yeah.
0 knight.
Right.
Yeah, the game ended as this, and I was happy with my performance in this game
Yeah.
because I was very close to win, to take some ELO rating for the first tournament.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you very much for your attention.